Great to see you all again. I guess it's midwinter where you are. It's summertime here. I'd like to speak briefly today about Zen concentration, what that really is. The first question that might arise is concentration on what? I don't know, in Australia, do you have the expression, you have my undivided attention? You have my full attention? Well, that's a good entrance, I think. What does it mean to really have my undivided attention? I would say otherwise we are lost in the practice. The great American actor Spencer Tracy was once asked by a young up-and-coming actor, how can I be a great actor like you? And Spencer Tracy's response was, acting is the easiest thing in the world. Just don't get caught doing it. It's pretty much the same thing with Zen concentration. Concentration in Zen practice is not a matter of turning our attention from one thing to another. For example, our mind is now wandering and scattered. Aha, I'm now going to focus my attention, concentrate on the koan that my teacher gave me, or my breath, or zazen itself. This is certainly a good entrance, a good process, bringing our mind back over and over. But Zen concentration is not that. It's not turning our attention from one thing to another thing. If we look at it as willed attention, self-conscious attention, kind of like a flashlight shining on something. Well, Zen concentration then is the sun rising. Everything is illumined. This may sound a bit conceptual or abstract, but it is not at all. I would say it's actually what we ordinarily think of as concentration that is still scattered and abstract. What do I mean? The concentration of Zen is most immediate. It's the most concrete thing possible. So concrete that it actually must be embodied. And I don't just mean in your body from your head to your toe. It must include everything. Undivided. There is something total about Zen concentration. Of course, we can focus very much on something if we need to focus on it. The door handle, the light being red or green, but at the bottom, at the source, at the ground of that focus is this undivided, most immediate and concrete attention. It is literally inconceivable. Again, not because it's abstract, but because it is so immediate. It cannot be turned into an object that we then focus on. If it is, we're not doing zazen. It is literally ungraspable. It cannot be grasped, turned into an object. Again, not because it's far away, but because it is so close. To give a simple example, very common, the fear of death or a feeling of ignorance, not knowing where we come from, where we go to. Who is this really? What am I really? This is what often rouses people to practice Zen in the first place. And often there's a difficulty bringing these two together. How do I put my concentration on that? What I would say is when you really open up to what is underfoot, not some notion or idea, but when you really open up to what is under your own feet, the fact that, yes, I'm alive now, but I will die. I know things, but I don't really know them. In other words, to put it bluntly, the self, by its very nature, is split. Is split. And Humpty Dumpty can't put the pieces back together. There is life, there is death. There is good, there is evil. Let's take this concrete example of death, because this is very common for many people. This is the way that they come to the gate of Zen. The death here is not something objectified or conceived. In other words, yes, someone I love died, and it touched me deeply. This can certainly be a profound entrance, but what really strikes home is the fact that this is true of myself as well. I, me, hello, yeah, this one is going to die. Until we've really opened up to that, the great matter of life and death, or simply death, is not really realized. It's still somehow out there. Close, but still out there. No. What about this one? You see, when you really open up to this obvious fact that we're always running away from, as soon as you're born, you're bound to die. But we run away from it. When we stop running away and really open up to what is underfoot, I would say we cannot help but concentrate on this. There is nothing else to concentrate on, you see? In a way, it puts everything else into the background. Of course, when we need to focus on it, we can. But in the depths of our Zen practice, how can we escape? How can we avoid this? How can we forget this? If we don't run away, it's there. It's there. It comes to be total and complete. In a very good way, it comes to engulf us. This is the way koan practice can become real. You can't help but concentrate then, because you see, it's no longer an object among other objects, a possibility, something to think about. You see? It's a bowling ball in the pit of your stomach. And this is very good. This is very good. But it needs to be, as it said in Zen, solidified, brought together. It needs to be total. and complete. This concentration, which is no other than the great doubt in a sense, which is no other than a real koan, comes to coalesce, to solidify. It comes naturally to include everything. And what happens then? When it is total and complete, it dissolves without a trace. If it's not total and complete, you know what happens. Splish, splash, a little bit here, a little bit there, an insight, and then another doubt, and then it's just a profound symptom of the dis-ease. But when it all comes together as one, and then dissolves, what happens? Then this concentration is total and complete. It's also gone without a trace. It is the vast universe. It is not separate. There is literally nothing to concentrate on. And yet that freely works and functions in the world. This is what the concentration of Zen is. It comes to be all-consuming in a very, very good way. And then it bursts apart. Then that separation, that split, which is the source of our pain, is found to be null and void. It was not there from the first. We can confirm it in each and everything. So please don't worry. I know there are people who have sat zazen for decades and simply gone around and around and around in their head. They have not been able to bring all of their attention to bear on this. But if you're practicing properly, how can you not bring all of your attention to bear on this? To me, in my own small, limited way, this is the heart of Zen practice. Pardon me for breaking the silence, and thank you for listening so intently.
If anyone has any questions coming out of the practice, just gasho and unmute yourself.
I think for me, the obvious question that arises out of that is the question, how do you avoid going round and round in circles for decades? How do you know if you're practicing properly or not?
If you're practicing properly, the walls come down. The walls come down. It may take some time, but the most essential point, I would say, is simply not to run away, not to escape, not to go back into those. It's very tempting. It's very easy because that's what we've done all our life, right? We've gone off. They're not satisfying. They don't take us anywhere, and somewhere deep inside we know that, but what's the alternative? Until it's really clear, until you really open up and see that this is what must be done in this life, I suppose you will just keep wandering around. That desperation is helpful. As long as you have the luxury of escaping, I suppose the ego self will continue doing it. But you don't have the luxury, do you? Be honest. Be humble. Be honest. Be sincere. And I don't see how you can avoid it. I would say this concentration is not difficult. It's unavoidable if you stop escaping. Do you know what I mean? Does it help?
It does help. There's a million distractions.
And there's none.
Thank you, Jeff. That was very helpful. My question is about the phrase you use, which is embody the practice. I recall a comment from one of our fellow retreatants at Canberra, which was something that resonates with me, that it has never actually felt safe to feel in one's body. Can you make some comments on that?
Is it safe to not be in one's body? That sounds scary to me, but anyway. The first obvious point is not in your head. To be embodied means not simply to be thinking about it, contemplating it consciously, right? But it doesn't mean you're an idiot. I would say rather embodied, the total mind and body come together as one. What do you love to do, Leonie?
Many things, Jeff.
For example?
Well, I love being a doctor. I love playing the piano. I've got a very beautiful dog.
Well,
And
can
a
you do
nice
any of
husband.
those things? Can you do any of those things without having a body? Without embodying it? Can you play the piano in your mind? Well, you could, but that's not. It doesn't sound very good. You see what I'm saying? When you do something you love, your body and your mind, well, they're one, or maybe they're not even one. They are the music, aren't they? So it's very easy and natural when you're doing something you love, right? Walking the dog, you don't sit and think about it, you do it. You use your body. And it's very enjoyable and satisfying, isn't it? But to do that in sustained zazen, sitting in concentrated zazen, yes, in the beginning, that can really be a great challenge. It's like you are fighting against your body, or your body is fighting against you. But by learning to sit properly, and everybody, has to figure that out for themselves, with your body. It's not just something in your head, it's something we're doing with our whole body. And that whole body gets up and then walks the dog, cooks a meal. In that sense, it has to be embodied, not just something in our head. It's not anything strange or mystical. Am I making it clear, Leonie? Do you want to rephrase your question?
No, I think that there are actually people where, and this is my experience, where there's actually, when one pays attention, it's almost intolerable to be with one's body.
What do you mean?
So, for example, if you've had a history of abuse, for example, there's some things about breathing practice that are just incredibly difficult.
Right. Well, in that case, it may be good to deal with that on a therapy, as a therapy, deal with it on that level first, if you see those things coming up. The sitting should be completely, how to say, it's taut, but it's not tense. We're erect, our body is erect and very alert and open, but it's also completely relaxed. Completely. So if something is preventing you from doing that, yeah, maybe you need to look into it.
Thanks for your talk, Jeff. Could you explain a bit more about solidifying?
One of the more humorous terms they use is they speak of it at the extremity of this practice. You're like an idiot. That you walk, you don't know that you're walking. You sit, you don't know that you're sitting. You know, there's a very common expression. At that point, there's self-reflective consciousness is virtually gone. And yet the body and the mind are still functioning. But there's nowhere to go. It's not escaping out into ideas, thoughts, plans, hopes, expectations. All of that, in a very good way, is shut down. And there's just this immediacy. It could be described as concentration, but however we describe it, it has to become solidified. There's a technical term which is a doubt block. Literally, it's like a block, a blockhead in a very good sense. The mind is not seeping out or trying to bring more experience in. Been there, done that. So that stream has stopped. And experience is, in a sense, solidified. When we look, there's just what's there, nothing else. Mind is not bringing thoughts, ideas in. And so it is really like, in a very good way, being a blockhead. And there are many expressions like this in the Zen tradition. But maybe the most important point is, if that doesn't happen, what does happen is you have a little bit of concentration and maybe something stirs and you have a little bit of an insight and you may mistake that for awakening, you see? And then, oh, later on, if you're honest, well, you have to doubt about that, but then you had that. And it just becomes this seesaw practice. So if it is not total, when it breaks up, it's like children playing in the sand at the beach. Very funny, and the waves come in, very exciting, but the point is to dive into the ocean. And until we do that, we don't know that the little sand castle that we make is just a sand castle and the water comes in. So to solidify it, it's necessary to, in a sense, go in all the way. Go in all the way. And it naturally happens. And the real point is, then when that breaks up or dissolves, there is where we come back to ourselves. That's where, I don't know if you say it in Australia, but that's where as children we would say, come out wherever you are. Or maybe, Ali, Ali, oxen free. Or this old man came rolling home. You familiar with any of those?
Yeah.
Well, they take on a slightly different meaning. I don't know if that helps, Jane. Thank you for your question.
We have a few more minutes if there's a final question.
Hi, Jeff. It's David.
Maybe.
I appreciated the shift from the flashlight metaphor of focusing in on our breath or the koan. And I guess what I was hearing you say was that we're focusing on kind of life itself and the entirety of life. So rather than it being like a narrow focusing in, the attention is to the whole of the realm of life. It's what I was kind of paraphrasing in my own mind is kind of concentrate as if our life depends on it. So I just wasn't sure if I was hearing that right.
Yeah, it's not, as I said, it's not an abstract kind of life, in abstract, life, but rather the immediate experience, the immediate sense experience comes to be everything. And that includes everything, right? I mean, outside of our experience, what is there? Well, we can speculate about it, but unless it's a part of our experience. So what is going on in our immediate experience? That's enough if we're there fully. It's because we're there, but we're not there, right? So, okay, but I would like a better position or a easier sitting or another experience to make me happy. You see what I mean? We're not here. We're here and we're not, we're split. That split is what needs to be let go, so to speak. It dissolves itself. It can't maintain itself.
Okay, we've come to time. So thank you, Jeff, for taking on behalf of everyone, for taking the time to give us a talk and sit with us. And we'll get back together again, maybe in a month's time.